Hey everyone, Reed here at Big Strong Book, here today to talk about Elric of Melniboné by Michael Moorcock. Now, this is not the entire book. This is, in fact, an omnibus of, I think, the first four novels in the Elric series chronologically, not in publication order. This omnibus is the first volume of, I think, three that Saga Press put out a few years back. I think trying to finally compile all of the Elric novels in omnibus editions in chronological order. That was very important for them. Now, the Elric series and Michael Moorcock in general as an author has been something that I've been trying to get around to for a while. I've had this book for a while, in fact, but I hadn't read the first book until now. And I think my own interests and tastes in fantasy literature in particular, I think have definitely shifted over time. And probably still in the middle of a shift right now with, whereas before I had a taste for big, epic fantasy novels, and that was kind of the main part of that interest in fantasy was reserved for that. But now I think it's broadened towards going for works that really try to hit on or to penetrate an almost mythological facet. So you have things like Lord of the Rings. Even though Lord of the Rings is the hallmark of high fantasy and it kind of set the bar, I view that as it has mythological overtones, and I believe that is what Tolkien, with the Middle-earth universe that he created, intended as a kind of pseudo-mythology for England. Then last year, I read a couple books in Ursula Le Guin's Earthsea series. Things like that where they're both simple stories, but they're very rich in terms of the broad mythological paint. I know I'm using that word a lot, but the broad mythological overtones. You have the Chronicles of Narnia, which I reviewed a couple books last year. And a lot of these, funnily enough, kind of tie back towards children's literature. Earthsea is considered children's literature, I think, which is surprising to me because, I don't know, it just seems so head and shoulders above everything else. Narnia, of course, is children's lit. And then you get authors like Michael Moorcock. And Michael Moorcock is, as far as I can see, not a fan of Tolkien. I think he wrote an essay literally called Epic Pooh, but Pooh spelled Pooh, as in Winnie the Pooh, about criticizing, I think, Tolkien's pastoral, old-time, conservative, idealist views on England and fantasy, and Moorcock was not a fan of that, I don't think. And so Moorcock, in his own way, then created, from when he was, I think, a teenager or in his early 20s when he started publishing until pretty much the present day, because Moorcock is still alive. He's in, I think, his mid-80s. He's still alive. He's still writing, still publishing. And he created this big universe where a lot of his protagonists are incarnations of what is called the Eternal Champion. I think, again, this is the only thing I've read by him thus far. So anyways, diving into this now, Elric of Melniboné is, I think Melniboné is how you say it. It's the first novel chronologically, but I think it's like the fifth novel maybe in publication order. And I didn't realize that, honestly, until I finished reading the book. I thought, oh, this is just the start of the story. It seems like that. But no, it actually isn't. So it concerns Elric, who at the start is emperor of this land of Melniboné, and he's kind of like this elvish. Um, they're almost like an elvish sorcerer race, and dealing with kind of raids from human kingdoms beyond the sea. And he is somebody, Elric is somebody who constantly has these fears and has these doubts as to his own efficacy as emperor. If he is meant to be emperor, he doesn't feel pulled to it. He's not power hungry in a overt sense, but his cousin Irkun is. And him and Irkun are, there's kind of this battle of wills of who is the better of them to lead their people and to save their land or to preserve it, while also fighting for the affections of Cimmeril, who is, I believe, the sister of Irkun and again, the cousin of Elric. And so a lot of this, it's about the push and the pull between Elric and Irkun. Early on, this isn't really a spoiler, Irkun attempts to kill Elric, but Elric is saved kind of by powers beyond his control, and then is brought back, and then that creates just an absolute schism in their leadership for their people, which then broadens and starts to it evolves all over the place, especially to the point where then we get both characters trying to involve these spirits, these ancient gods, on their side. So this book is it's as simple as that. It's two cousins, one cousin that really desires power, one cousin that doesn't necessarily desire it. He's just trying to almost hold the line and utilize the powers of this world for the aim of at least stopping the cousin that he thinks could destroy a lot of things because he would use it erratically. And it's, I mean, the novel is only 160 pages long. It's very short, again, very simple, very direct, which is good because most of this book is just, it's a lot of internal struggle for Elric about what he desires, why he's doing what he's doing, why he's going after his cousin. And while reading this, I was struck with the directness, the simplicity, and the plot that this has, which is kind of like go, 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 go all the way through. It's very fast paced. After all, it is only 160 something pages. That's kind of a lost art, I think, in fantasy writing nowadays. Granted, I'm not somebody who's a total purist and thinks that all books should be under 200 pages. Not by any means. A book, just as a movie or a TV show or anything, it should be as long as the story needs. But with so many fantasy novels these days, I feel like you'd be hard-pressed to find a lot that really try to lean into elements of a secondary world, like really, really hard lean into it, and be under like 500 pages. It's possible, certainly, but I feel like 400, 500 pages in terms of what is, at least in the fantasy mainstream being published, you'd be really hard-pressed to find that. Granted, this was written a long time ago, before the big fat fantasy novel became more of the norm. I mean, this was swimming in the wake of The Lord of the Rings, but this was certainly before Thomas Covenant, Shannara, Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, Wheel of Time, things like that, where that became the norm. So that is the internal struggles, that the hint of where this is going, again, because this was not the first written, it's just the first chronologically. So maybe there is stuff that I'm missing out and not able to appreciate. I think this is solid. It's a solid first entry. I am intrigued to read the other Elric novels. I think I'm certainly not in a rush to read them right stat now, but in the future. And as well as the other Eternal Champion novels by Moorcock. Again, it's solid, and that internal struggle is perhaps the best positive I can say about it. it's just it leaves a little to be desired. This isn't like a oh my gosh, it blew me away type book. It's solid. It's a quick light read, and it has its hooks into something deeper, which I assume is something that will be explored a bit at a time for the whatever 10 plus other Elric novels that there are. Um, and I think if I still have that feeling after a few more, it may be that this is just Michael Moorcock's style, and maybe his style isn't for me, or maybe the character of Elric maybe isn't for me. I like Elric. It's just that, again, we're at just at the beginning, we're at the cusp of something. So, and maybe that's just because this novel was written to be a prequel. I don't know, but we'll see. So, Elric of Melniboné, it's an interesting uh, entry into the canon of fantasy literature. I know this series is very highly regarded and beloved. Interested to see where it goes, and interested to see where, again, where my ever shifting tastes in fantasy lit take me. So, Elric of Melniboné, if you have read it, let me know what you think. And as always, I will see you guys next time.